Hola, hola. Welcome back to Hermanas Unfiltered, where we keep it real, raw, and most importantly, unfiltered. I'm Isela, your crafting genius, here to sprinkle some structure and goal crushing tips into your life.
And I'm Casey, your go with the flow mom of five boys, bringing you the good vibes, balance, and maybe a little retail therapy along the way. We are so excited you're here with us today.
And don't forget, you can also watch us on YouTube at Hermanas Unfiltered Podcast. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss an episode.
Yes, and today we're diving into a topic that's near and dear to both of us: how to be authentically yourself. Because let's face it, trying to be someone that's not you is so exhausting. Am I right, Isala?
Absolutely, Casey. Life is so much better when you embrace who you truly are. So grab your cafecito, sit back, and let's get into it.
Alrighty, Stella. So let's start with the basics. What does being authentic even mean to you?
Man, so for me, I think that being authentic just means that you align your actions and choices with your true values and passions. It's about knowing who you are and not being afraid to show it to the world. What about you?
I think you're right on it. It's all about accepting the parts of yourself, even the messy ones. I know I
Hmm.
have a ton of messy, imperfect ones. So, like, I'm a hot mess half the time. Like, with five boys, we're always running around, but that's who I am. And I think I've learned to really embrace that and own it, because I know there were times where I struggled with trying to be the perfect mom all the time, and I feel like sometimes people judge a little harshly, and I
Hmm.
had to learn how to let that go and just realize, hey, I'm doing the best that I can. I'm definitely not perfect, but hey, let's just roll with it.
Amen, sister. I think it's important also to remember that being authentic doesn't mean that you're perfect. It's all about progress and not perfection.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and share some tips for our listeners how to embrace their uniqueness. And what would be your first tip, Isela?
Okay, so my top tip is to identify what lights you up. What are
Mhm.
you passionate about? For me is crafting. That's just something that makes me feel alive and it helps me express my creativity. Also, I find it soothing. If I've had a long day
Mhm.
or if I'm struggling with something, I'll just go back to the shop and either sew or whatever it is that I find back there to do. So anyway, Casey, if our listeners want to figure things out about who you truly are, you can take a personality assessment like the Myers-Briggs type indicator or the MBTI or Strengths Finder, which will provide you with insights of your strengths and preferences. You might discover that you're a natural leader, a creative thinker, or someone who thrives in helping others. So, for example, if you love to write, start journaling or blogging. If you're into fitness, then try a new workout or routine that excites you. And if you're unsure, you can experiment with different things like painting, hiking, volunteering until you find something that resonates. So, I know for me, it took me a long time to find something that caught my interest. I've tried it all, so I can honestly say that I'm a ADHD hobbyist. Is that a word?
I love that.
Hobbyist. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because I've tried it all. I've tried painting, coloring, sewing, knitting, you name it. If it can be done with your hands, I've tried it, and I tend to jump from like hobby to hobby and craft to
hmm
craft.
hmm
So I think that the thing that has stuck the most for me has been definitely sewing.
Yeah. And I think it's important for you to explore and see what you're good at. You may not even know that you're good at knitting or that you're good at
Mm-hmm.
sewing until you try it.
Yeah,
I definitely feel that sometimes some of those things are in our DNA and we may just not even know. So, yeah, I think you have to explore and see what's going to fit best for you, especially if you don't quite know yourself yet or you're still getting to know like who you are as a person.
I agree.
All right. So, my tip is to stop comparing yourself to others. So, social media can make you feel like you're not doing enough. But I think, it's your own journey and you need to stop comparing yourself to other people. Studies have shown that excessive social comparison particularly with social media, can lead to the increased levels of stress, anxiety, and even depression. And I think that's something that we're starting to see a lot, especially with our younger generation,
Mhm.
where, they're always afraid of failing, or they're afraid to try new things because they feel like they're just not good enough. And I think a lot of that comes from social comparison and anxiety and depression, where they're just like, oh, so afraid to try new things. Um, because they don't want to be failures, or they don't want to look at failures. But I think failures are what help us grow as
Mhm.
individuals. You know what I mean? They help us
Mhm.
become better. They create grit. And I think that's something that um, we can all work on. So now there's a study that was published in the Journal of Science and Clinical Psychology that found that if you limit your social usage to 30 minutes a day, that significantly improves your well-being. Which, I think that makes sense, because sometimes,
Yeah.
we get to scrolling, and we're constantly scrolling, and we get sucked into social media, right?
Mhm.
So just keep in mind that you got to focus on your own path, and you can reduce these negative effects and improve your mental health by reducing your screen time. So whether you're working as a professional, juggling deadlines, or maybe you're a stay-at-home parent who's managing the household, which are both very valid, you need to make sure that, you're not constantly comparing yourself, and that you're celebrating your uniqueness and your accomplishments, because I think that's essential to having a balanced mindset.
Yes, I agree. And don't forget that comparing yourself to others, that is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Remember, there's only one you, and that's your superpower. So, I'm going to give you a small daily habit to help you with that. So, every day, write down 3 things that you love about yourself every morning. And
Mm,
then, if you do this simple practice, you can reinforce positivity, and it'll help you start your day with confidence, and you'll feel a little bit more self acceptance. And then I know we talked about this in our last episode as well, self affirmations. Things like, I am capable, I am worthy, or I bring value to those around me.
mm.
If you do things like this, it can shift your mindset over time, and it'll help you embrace who you really are.
No, I absolutely agree. I love that journaling is such a beneficial thing. I think we've talked about it in our last episode, and I love that we're, bringing it back again to this episode, because that just makes me realize how important writing is to our
It
mental
truly
health.
is.
Right? Isn't that
Mhm.
insane? Something so simple as pen and paper can really contribute to our mental health.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so let's talk about fear. So, a lot of people hold back from being themselves because they're afraid of what others are going to think. I know that I've done this several times. What do you think, Isela? What do you think about that?
So, Casey, here's the thing. People are always going to have opinions. No
Mm-hmm.
matter what you do, no matter what you say, they're always going to have something to say. Whether it's positive or negative,
Mm-hmm.
you can't please everybody. So, why not give them something authentic to talk about? You can't
Ooh.
please everyone. So, focus on pleasing yourself. And believe it or not, it has taken me years to get to that point in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was a very insecure child growing up, and because of my insecurities, I was always very guarded. I
Mm-hmm.
guess you can say I'm still a little guarded. It takes me a while to open up to people,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was like growing up, I just felt like I couldn't be who I truly was because I was always afraid of being judged or not fitting in with my friends and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, people will always have something to say, and they're always going to have their own opinions about you. So
Yeah.
just be who you really are and keep yourself happy.
Yeah. I agree. Amen. Absolutely. And for me, I try to remind myself that most people are too busy, worrying about their own lives, to really judge yours.
Mhm.
So I can definitely advise our listeners, like, don't let the fear of judgment hold you back. So let me give out like a little practical tip. So when you feel anxious about what other thinks, maybe take a few deep breaths and remind yourself about your strengths. You can tell yourself things like, I'm doing my best, or their opinion doesn't define my worth. Another way to shift the negative mindset is to reframe the situation. So you want to ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Or how can I turn this challenging issue into an opportunity? So by practicing self compassion, which I think we all need to
Mhm.
do, and focus on your growth, you can really transform self doubt into self confidence. I know I struggled a lot with the fear of judgment of others. And I think I'm to a point now where I'm going to do me, regardless of what anyone and everyone is going to say, because there's always going to be someone out there with a negative perspective or someone who's
Mhm.
going to be overly critical of what you do. And I think as long as you do something because that's the way you feel and because that's authentically you, then keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Right. I agree. And then another tip, Casey, is also, I know we talked about it last episode as well. Surround yourself with people who
Hmm.
celebrate who you are. I know we've all been in this situation. I know I have personally. So if someone's constantly tearing you down or making you feel less than what you are,
Hmm.
they're not your people.
Agree.
Listen to that again. If somebody is always tearing you down, criticizing you, or making you feel less than what you are, they are not your people. So instead, find communities that support your growth. So, for example, if you are a reader like I am, we came together, this small group of women, and we've been doing it for a year, and we have a book club, and it's been great. I've made some amazing friends along the way, and then people that I already knew that had the same thing in common. If you're into crafting, find you somebody that crafts. If you're into fitness, find you somebody that is active and goes to the gym or likes to run or whatever.
Hmm.
um there is ton of people out there that have the same interest as you and that are willing to support you without being critical of the things that you like to do or enjoy doing.
Yes, absolutely. You have to find your tribe, and don't feel like your tribe needs to fit like a little niche. Like you can have friends for workout, you can have friends for cooking, you can have friends
Mhm.
for brunch. Like don't limit yourself to one group of friends. Different for friends serve different purposes.
Right.
And I think it's important to, like, open the doors and explore your avenues when it comes to finding your tribe. Life's too short for you to spend your time with people who don't lift you up. And if you're a parent, involve your kids in this journey, which I think is
Yes.
super important, right?
Mhm.
Because you want to teach them by example, and you want them to embrace their uniqueness as well. So, like, for instance, my boys love showing off their quirky talents, and I think it's such a joy to see them be themselves. I love that about them. They're not afraid of that judgment.
Yeah, you know what? And I feel like kids, like that generation of our
Mm-hmm.
kids, they are like, yeah, you have a ton of them that have anxiety and that they're always
Mm-hmm.
comparing themselves to others, but there are also a large chunk of them that don't mind being quirky and they don't mind being weird. My daughter sometimes she'll walk around the house making faces or like walking
Mm,
funny, and
I
I'll
love
come up
that.
to her and I'm like, "Why are you being a weirdo?" And she'll just look at me and she's like, "Cuz," or if we're having a
Mm-hmm.
conversation and I tell her something and I'm like, "You're weird." And she'll be like, "Thank you." Like
Aww.
she embraces her
Her
quirky self.
uniqueness.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
unique and she loves it and she's all for it.
I love that. And I think we need more of that in this world. This world is so complicated and overstimulating that we definitely need more authentic people.
Mhm.
And if
For
we can
sure.
teach our kids along the way how to be authentic, what a great gift to the world.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so let's get practical. Isela, you're about setting and crushing goals. So, how can someone set goals and live more authentically?
Okay, so the key for setting goals is to start small.
Mm.
So pick an area in your life where you feel out of alignment and then set a goal to change it. For example, if you feel like you're saying yes to things that you don't want to do, which I know we're all guilty about it, and
Mhm.
especially if you're in the education world, we get roped into doing things that we don't want to do.
Yeah.
So, anyway, if you feel like you say yes to a lot of things and you don't want to do it, set a goal to say no at least once this week. So, if somebody asks you to, I don't know, stay after school for an event and help out, say no. Little things will build up to bigger things, if that makes any sense. Also, what else? You can start by decluttering your space. Have you ever noticed that when you clean your closet or clean your cabinets or your junk drawer, you feel more aligned? You feel at peace?
Yeah, I love this.
So it's another thing you can do because when you clean, you feel amazing, you feel
Mhm.
organized, and it inspires you to feel more confident.
Yeah. And I feel like it kind of resets you. And if you like suffer from anxiety or from stress, I feel like there's something about cleaning and organizing things that kind of just like kind of helps with all that anxiety and all that stress level because that's
Mhm.
just one less thing for you to worry about.
Yeah, and also I feel, I don't know about you, but I feel when I start deep cleaning,
Mhm.
you also like let some of your frustration out while you're doing it. Does that make sense? Like you feel so much more at peace when you're done,
Mhm.
whether it's decluttering, deep cleaning, getting rid of old clothes that you don't wear anymore. All of those things just it makes me feel great every time I do it.
Mhm. It's so true. Like it's such a hard task to like start it, but once you
Mhm.
do it and you accomplish it, it's like automatically you feel so good cuz you just tackled this big huge task that maybe you had been avoiding for a while. And then it's like and it looks so good afterwards and it feels so
Yeah.
good.
It's liberating almost.
Mhm. Yeah, to a certain degree, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I like finding balance. And I love fitness, but I also love reading. And I don't try to be like super strict about one or the other. I try to make room in my world for both. I feel like reading can sometimes overtake my world. Like I become
Mhm.
so consumed in a book that I feel like I can't put it down. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
at the same time, like I feel like, oh, but I gotta like, plug in my workout time. So, and I'm not one of those people who can like work out and like listen to a book. I can't do that.
I feel
So,
attacked.
do you do that?
Oh,
Can you do
yes.
that? How the,
Definitely. I don't know. I mean,
it
it
makes me want to
definitely.
stop running.
No, I feel you. Sometimes I do
Mm-hmm.
feel that way. Like if I'm running, I need a good playlist. But I
Yes.
can, use the machines at the gym
Mm-hmm.
and listen to my audiobook and it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be fine. Like if I was just like weightlifting or if I was just like using a machine or whatever, like I think I could listen to an audiobook. But for
Mhm.
running, like I need something that's going to like bring up the energy and like I'm almost like in the club like do,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Just like
Yeah.
jamming out and listening cuz I need that like push to like keep me going so that I don't stop running cuz once I stop that's it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We're done for the day.
Yeah.
But, anyways, yeah, absolutely. It's all about balance, finding that balance for yourself, but at the same time, enjoying what you love, because that's what's going to build your authenticity. So,
Mhm.
sometimes it could be like taking a bubble bath, or maybe you want to go walk outside or drink, a coffee with your bestie. And I think it's important that we find the things that we love and make them a priority because I
Yeah.
think they do mold us and they make us who we are, and I think it brings out the joy and love in ourselves. And then I think that radiates, and then other people can see that too. And it just becomes like
Mhm.
magnetizing.
Yeah. Yeah, you make a really good point. I think that being authentic is about balance and honoring all parts of yourself. And also, don't forget to celebrate your wins, no matter how
Hmm.
small they are. So, like if you try a new hobby, celebrate it.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't do that great, still celebrate it because you tried it. Or if you set a new boundary this week, also celebrate that. Sometimes I have a really hard time setting boundaries
Mhm.
and I feel guilty for doing it. So I need to take my own advice and celebrate when I do set a new boundary because I feel
Yeah,
guilty every time I do it.
I agree. I think that's important. I think it's super important. You got to celebrate the little wins, the little victories, because I think
Mhm.
that's what's going to push you and propel you to want to do more. And then it becomes an
Yeah.
addicting habit. Like,
Yeah, for
hey, I
sure.
accomplished this. Now I'm going to accomplish this. All right. So, another practical step is to create a joy list. This is something that I definitely need to do. I've done it before previously, like in my bullet journals, where I write all
Mhm.
the things that I love. So, a joy list is just writing things that bring joy or bring happiness to your life, whether it's something big, something small, whether it takes effort or no effort. And maybe you want to incorporate them into your routine, or maybe you just need a list of things that you're feeling down and you look at your joy list and you're like, oh my gosh, there's all these things that bring me joy and I'm over here focusing on the negativity. For example, I love dancing with my boys in the kitchen or taking 15 minutes to read a book. So write it down, write those things on your joy list. I know some things that I've put on my joy list are things like going to the beach, dancing, coffee, Celsius, hot Cheetos, like little things that like bring joy to me. May
Yeah.
not necessarily be the healthiest of things, but they're little things that I love and bring me joy. What are some things that you would have on your joy list, Isela?
So I think mine definitely would include crafting, organizing my planner, or writing on my journal, or just having a little bit of quiet time and either drinking some coffee or reading a book. Because if you have kids,
Mm-hmm.
you know that you hear the
Yes.
word mom about a million times a day, right? Especially if you have
Mm-hmm.
little ones like us.
Yeah.
And then, of course, because we are educators, you also hear your name being called out about 1,000 times a day as well. So I think that the what I enjoy the most is just a moment of peace and
Yeah.
quiet. That's my top right there. Um, but I do believe that simple joys make such a big difference in your daily
Mm-hmm.
life. You have to give yourself time for those.
Yeah. Especially if you're like, you're not in a good headspace or you're just having a tough day. You gotta turn it around. And if you have
Mhm.
that joy list, like pick something from your joy list and do it. You know what I mean? Whether it's listening to maybe a song or a playlist. Like I think you can also have like a joy playlist. Sometimes just having like a playlist of songs that are going to like motivate you or like that
Mhm.
are going to bring just this enthusiasm in you. I think it's important to have those as well. Like I know I have playlists for like different things, whether it's for my workout, whether it's for cleaning, whether it's my sad playlist or whatever. You know what I mean? Sometimes you need a good cry too.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you know what I mean? But yeah,
Yeah.
joy lists I think are important.
Oh, the sad list. That's hilarious. No, but I
Right?
get you. I get you.
Yeah. Like who doesn't have like I know back in the day, remember when it was all about CDs and stuff? Like how did we survive? You had to pull out your CD and then or did you ever like burn CDs? Like did you ever like steal songs on
Yes,
LimeWire? You
all the
remember LimeWire?
time. Yes.
My gosh, dude, these kids will never
No,
understand
ever.
like what the struggles that we had to go through to get like songs. Or I remember like sometimes they would play songs like on the radio and you would like get
Mhm.
your cassette, like you would have your
Oh,
cassette
and
player, you would
record
just
it.
and record the song.
Yes. Yes. So, speaking of burnt CDs, did you ever have that one burnt CD that had like all kinds of random music on it? So you would have like some ratchet rap song and then like it would shift to country or something else.
Oh
It
my
was never
gosh,
like all the
yes.
same thing in the CD.
Yeah, definitely had that.
Yeah,
Definitely. Like I
fun times.
remember when I met my husband, I burnt him a CD. Like a
What?
yeah, he still has it and it was like all like these lovey-dovey songs. Right? Like how corny was that?
Yeah, I don't think I ever burnt a CD for any boys.
No.
No.
He's the only one that I ever burnt a CD for. Like that. And then I like um on the CD, you know how like on the cover or whatever, like with marker I put little hearts and I don't know. I don't know what I wrote on there. I wrote some stuff. I'm not divulging that information, but but I wrote some things on there. Might have been some X's and O's. I don't know.
That's funny.
I know, right? The things you do when you're in love.
Yeah.
All right, so let's share some personal stories about embracing our authenticity. So, Isela, can you think of a time when you had to step out of your comfort zone and be your true self?
Yeah, starting this podcast
Mm-hmm.
for sure. I think it was a big deal, cuz like I said, I'm a very uh closed off, shielded person. So when we first started, I had the fear of like, what are people gonna say? They're
Mm-hmm.
gonna judge me. They're gonna think I'm crazy for doing this. But I feel like starting this podcast has also helped me open up a lot more. Like
Yeah.
I feel more, what do you say? Confident, and I don't know, like I don't
Mm-hmm.
know how to explain it, but definitely this podcast got me out of my comfort zone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you do have to get out of your comfort zone in order to grow as individuals. Like having a life where everything's perfect and everything's just like going and going and going, that's
Mhm.
not living. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to throw in some anxiety or not, okay, maybe not anxiety, but you got to throw in some uncomfortable moments to help you
Yeah.
grow as an individual.
Yeah, and I think my biggest thing was because we started off this from a conversation that you and I
Mhm.
had, and we were like, let's start a podcast.
Yeah.
My first thought was like, oh my god, like I'm gonna embarrass myself.
Yeah.
People are gonna judge me. What are we gonna talk
Mhm.
about?
Yeah.
But I feel like as we've gotten on,
Mhm.
I am like I'm really enjoying it, and I take it as like, my therapy session sometimes.
Mhm.
I get come and talk to you like if it's you and I having a conversation, and then we put it out into the world
Yeah.
for everybody to hear. So,
Yeah.
um I feel like this experience has been great, and then also for our listeners, do things that you're afraid to do, and
Mhm.
it's not that bad. It actually has been pretty fun.
Yeah.
What about you?
I definitely think that this podcast has definitely forced me out of my comfort area as well and be authentically myself. You know, you have to be when it comes to I don't know, putting yourself out on social media, it's super scary. But at the same
Mhm.
time, like you have to be yourself, right? You can't be
Right.
fake. You can't pretend to be something you're not. Because then, I mean, your audience is going to know. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I think this has really forced me to be okay with being goofy, with being silly, with like things that maybe I'm not 100% good at or
Mhm.
whatnot. You know what I mean? And I think this has kind of helped me see like I don't know, has kind of like helped boost my confidence and see like what we're doing is I think really important. And I think my main goal for starting this podcast was really to help other women embrace and love themselves. And I
Mhm.
feel through this process like I'm falling in love with myself. Like I'm falling in love with the person that I am and I'm like, "Damn, like I'm pretty cool, you know what I mean? Like I think because I think as women we tend to lose ourselves in our family and I think we tend to focus all our energy into our kids and their upbringing and making sure that they're okay that we kind of forget about ourselves and we kind of
Mhm.
forget the things that we want to do. So I feel like this has kind of brought me back to who I am, to who that girl before kids, the fun, exciting girl who just wants to kind of embrace all the hermanas and just love on them and just like bring them into this community so they can feel the way we feel.
Yeah. I agree 100%. I feel like it's something that I have for myself, every week that we get together and record, or when we edit. I feel
Mhm.
like it's something that I have for myself without my kids or my husband
Mhm.
or work or anything else. And I think like a lot that kind of made me question it in the beginning too was seeing how the internet makes you believe that everything is so perfect
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's not.
Mm-mm.
And then, you don't know what's going on behind
Closed
people's screens
doors.
when they're
Yeah.
recording. Yeah. So, and I feel like the approach that we've taken, like, yeah, our life is chaotic. We have 8 kids between us. We both have a full blown career. We have busy lives, busy husbands, and we're not keeping that behind doors. Like,
Yeah.
this is how life is. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
And
I
life is
agree.
messy and it's
Mhm.
imperfect and we're imperfect. And we may do things differently than you do. And I think that's okay. You know what I mean? I think it's important to accept our differences and at the same time embrace those differences. And I think
Mhm.
that's what creates authenticity, embracing your faults, but at the same time pushing you to become a better version of yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, cuz I'm a strong believer that the past or any mistakes that you've made in the past, that does
Mm-hmm.
not define you.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you've learned from your mistakes and you've learned to move forward and be a different person, then everything else stays in the past. And you embrace who you've become because of who you were or the mistakes that you've made in life.
Yeah. Yeah, and those mistakes that we've, traveled through are the mistakes that help us grow and they make
Mhm.
us better for them. Is it unfortunate? Yeah. No one wants to make mistakes and no one
Yeah.
wants to go through hardships, but I think those are important because they push us, they propel us to become or want to become better people. And I
Yeah.
think as long, like you said, like as long as you grow from them, then there's nothing that can stop you.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Hmm. And now that we're like kind of talking about the podcast, I do want to take this opportunity to kind of talk to our viewers and just, thank them for for their love, for their support, for embracing us, for embracing our imperfections. And I hope that they realize that we'll do the same for you. We're more than happy to embrace your imperfections, to lift you up, to propel you, to help you find your path in life so that you too can, be successful in this world. And I think the name of the podcast says it all, Hermanas Unfiltered. I am a true believer in wanting to build this community of sisterhood, where we can all come together, share our real, raw, authentic selves and help each other and guide each other to become better individuals.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Oh man, this has been such a good conversation, Isela, and I really hope our listeners are feeling inspired to step into their authentic self.
Me too. And also, listeners, remember that being yourself is the best gift that you can give to the world. Now, before we go, let's remind our listeners where they can find us.
Yes, absolutely. You guys can follow us on Instagram at hermanas underscore unfiltered. And then on TikTok, follow us at hermanas underscore unfiltered underscore pod. And you can email us with any questions or suggestions at hermanasunfiltered@gmail.com.
Yes, we love hearing from you. Let us know what you love about the podcast or what topics you want us to tackle in the future. Or if you have any feedbacks, we're
Mm-hmm.
talking too low, too strong. Let us know. Send us an email.
Yeah, we're working on that. Okay, so like I'm a really loud talker, so I'm gonna try to tone it down a little bit. But yeah, we're working on it. Trust me.
Yeah.
All right, amigas. Well, we want to thank you so much for spending this time with us, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast with your friends, please.
Yes. Until next time, stay real, stay raw, and stay unfiltered. Bye, hermanas.
Bye, everyone.